To get back to the landmark legal case against former President Donald Trump. Trump pleading not guilty to 34 felony counts during his arraignment inside a Manhattan courtroom today. Trump now on his way back to Palm Beach, Florida, where he is expected to speak tonight from his Mar-a-Lago estate.
The criminal charges are in connection with hush money payments made to adult film star Stormy Daniels in 2016 to hide an alleged affair. The 34 counts relate to falsifying business records pertaining to that payment. Trump entered his own not guilty plea. Video cameras were not allowed inside the courtroom, only still photography. He becomes the first former president in U.S. history to get charged with a crime. The judge warned Trump to refrain from rhetoric that could inflame or cause civil unrest. He's due back in court in December.
Now, the 34 criminal counts are all Class E felonies. If convicted, each count carries a maximum of 4 years in prison, but a judge could also sentence him to probation. The prosecutor calls the alleged hush money payments part of conspiracy to undermine the integrity of the 2016 election. The Manhattan DA spoke today following the arraignment.
34 false statements made to cover up other crimes. We cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct.
Let's bring in law professor Rory Little from UC Law in San Francisco. Professor, thanks for joining us again.
Now, Professor Little, we talked with you last week, but now the indictment was unsealed today. So what do you make of the charges and how hard it is to prove them?
Well, these charges are actually pretty serious, it seems to me. And the DA has added more information than we thought the DA had initially. So it's not just the payoff to Stormy Daniels, it's the payoffs to two other people. The argument is that they were paid off to, go after or silence hush money for unfavorable information for an electoral candidate. That's a violation of New York state law as well as federal law for many reasons. So the DA here really has, I think, a somewhat powerful case. We don't have much dispute about the falsity of the business entries. The only question is, did Trump know about them? That's always a question for a jury. And if he did know about them, did they violate some other law? He alleges they violated New York state electoral law, federal electoral law, and New York state income tax law, all reporting obligations. And, most Americans have to report accurately when they file their tax returns, and if they don't, they know they're subject to penalties. This is really a straightforward false business records case. It's the kind of case you would charge in many cases if you had the evidence.
Now, Trump has already suggested the judge in the case is biased against him, and he said the Manhattan DA hates him. So what are the chances of a change of venue or a change of prosecutor?
I was thinking about that. If I was the DA and I had the power, which he does not have, I'd say, okay, fine, let's go to Staten Island. Apparently Donald Trump said, let's go to Staten Island. Okay, let's go there. I think the evidence of this is going to be pretty clear. My experience as a trial lawyer is you can't fool jurors very long. Jurors understand what's right and what's wrong. The chances of this being changed to a different venue are pretty low. It's a county DA, and he's got to stay within his county. So I do think it's going to take a while for the lawyers to, do a lot of motions to try to get more information and suppress various witnesses and things like that. But to me, it looks like a very straightforward case, unless Trump manages to persuade the U.S. Supreme Court to intervene on some emergency basis, which I think he'll try, but I have a hard time imagining it.
All right, so what you see is what you get. Well, a key witness in this case is Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, who has spent time in prison. So do you think his credibility will be an issue for the prosecution? Absolutely.
I mean, Michael Cohen is a convicted perjurer. We know he's a liar, but I think there's a fair amount of evidence that supports what he said. In other words, when you use a lying confidential informant or an insider snitch, which Cohen is, you always have to have enough evidence to corroborate what he says. Here, we really don't have any doubt that the money was paid to these entities. We don't have any doubt that it was trying to hush up the unfavorable information. We don't have any doubt that they were falsely reported in the business records. The only question is, did Donald Trump know about it? And on that one, whether Cohen says he knew about it or not, you just look at a jury as a trial lawyer and you just say, oh, come on. Tell me that you believe Donald Trump didn't know about it. So we'll see.
All right, so we know the justice system moves slowly. We heard he's due back in court in December, and the election's 2024. So best case scenario, how soon could a trial begin, and do you think it'll actually get to trial?
Well, yeah, I heard that there was another court date in September, but I'm not sure. The prosecution, I know, has asked for a January trial date. The Trump people said, well, how about later in the spring? I think they all envision this going to trial because nobody believes that Donald Trump's going to plead guilty, and nobody believes that the DA is going to drop this case, having, frankly, taken the huge risk of filing this case and submitting himself to all this scrutiny. So absent some really unexpected twist and turn, this looks like a case that would go to trial because neither side wants to resolve it.
Well, it's interesting. We've never had somebody running for president going through the legal process in a criminal matter. Well, Professor Rory Little, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We always appreciate your insight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, and we're going to continue to follow developments all throughout the